Off week for Alabama. We're going to grade the Crimson Tide. Can't wait to hear what Mike thinks about this unit so far. 6-2, 34-0 shutout win over Missouri. Guys, I have a lot of questions. So maybe Mike can answer some of those questions for me. Make me a little more comfortable as we move forward and then take on LSU in the backstretch of this first Kalen DeBoer season. All that and more right here on the All-American Report. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Like and subscribe, and let's get this thing going. Dude, I love the open, man. Unlike Elephant in the Room, this open is badass.
You're like we're ready to run out of tunnel right now, man. You know what I mean? Like we're ready to run out of tunnel.
I feel like that. I'm just going to run right behind your block.
Hey, I would have recommended that, I don't know, 12, 14, 15 years ago. I don't know that I recommend that these days. You know what I mean? I'm a little hitch in the giddy up compared to what she once was, man. Back when I was running like that. You see that picture right there?
Yeah.
Little media guide. Yeah, when I was running like cheek to cheek. Not anymore, man. You don't want the smoke. I'm like, can I make it around the block for Halloween on Thursday night, man? So
I've got my Halloween costume picked out.
Yeah, what do you got, man? Let me guess.
I'm going to be the greatest American musician of all time. Can you
somebody from Grateful Dead?
You're on it. But who?
I knew it.
Who?
But here's the problem. I would agree with you if you were talking about Dead and Company, because John Mayer
in his day.
Yeah, John Mayer's
probably the best musician. Who's the original? Who's the OG?
I don't know. You know more about Dead. I've seen I told you I saw Grateful Dead at Wrigley, which I know you love, but it was John Mayer. It was John Mayer.
Mm-hmm. I loved him too, man. I'm a fan.
Hey, listen, I know we're gonna get to Bama. John Mayer, them zooming in on his fingers, playing guitar on the two jumbotrons in the outfit at Wrigley. It was a mind-boggling experience. I'll just leave it at that. Like I was floored.
Two nights with three of my best friends. It was great. Loved it. But I'm going to be Jerry Garcia, and my son doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be the orange dancing bear. And he doesn't realize how hard it was to get that dancing bear costume. But that's the thing when you get older and you got a little of this, you know what I mean? Like 5-8 years ago, probably couldn't have done it. Pulled it off though. So he doesn't realize it yet, but he'll have the best costume that's out there. Nobody's going to know who I am, but they'll know who he is right away. Orange dancing.
I love it, man. That's all. Like my kids are, 4 and 2. They're going to be minions, and my wife's trying to talk me into being Gru. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Come on, man. Well, look, I got to get your opinion. I read some hate mail. People were upset with me right now because I'm negative about the team, and they're mistaking my concern with negativity, because I'm not negative. First off, I like Kalen DeBoer, and I think that long term, he's going to get the kind of players that will respond to his style of coaching. I think right now he's in a transition, and it's two different styles, obviously, between what Nick Saban did and what he did. I also don't look at the 34-0 win and think that we're 34-0 better than Missouri if Missouri has all their players. I feel like Alabama, though, took advantage of turnovers. They forced turnovers. They've done a great job of that since the Vandy game. And, Mike, I'm going to give you my grades just because, and I know everybody wants to hear yours, but I feel like I need to tell you just so you know where I'm coming from. Disappointed mostly with the offensive line. I know that's your forte.
It's fair.
Give me your opinion. I think that Tyler Booker is awesome, first-round pick. I hope he goes to the Ravens. The guy I think is going to be great. My opinion. I watch Pritchett, and he whiffs on too many blocks. He's getting Milroe killed. I thought Milroe was injured, and then people are telling me I'm wrong. And people that are close to the program are telling me that I'm wrong.
Right.
So I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong, then I'm concerned, because the play that I'm seeing, first half against Missouri, Tennessee second half, the Vanderbilt game at times, although it wasn't his fault in the Vandy game, and the South Carolina game at times, what wasn't great. I think he's an awesome player, but he's obviously in a slump, or maybe he's getting hit so much. So I give the coaching staff a C+. I give the team a C+. That's where I'm at through 8 games.
C+ is rough for a top 15 team with a 6-2 record, but I guess that's the bed we've made with the Saban dynasty and everything else. C pluses, man. I would rather. Can we just go by position? Can we do that? Can I do 3 positions or 4 positions offensively, and then maybe do defense and then the coaching staff at the end, because it kind of all ties in together. And I'm with you, man. I've come on here and talked about the offensive line. I've had the offensive lines back a lot, and there's reason for that. I think what the offensive line is being asked to do a lot of times is probably not fair. I don't know that they're built for what they're being asked to do all the time. Elijah Pritchett is very good, I think. All right. But he looks like a guy, in my opinion, that needs to practice with no helmet. All right. I never had to do that. I don't know if you've ever heard of people doing that. People that get their face involved, offensive linemen that get their face involved too much and become leaners, right? Which he does. Hey, take his freaking helmet off. All right. Make him use his hands. Make him keep the guy away from him so he doesn't bust his nose. He reminds me of your prototypical I need to practice with no helmet on kind of guy, right? And it's unfortunate because he has the tools. I know he's been dinged up, right? We know he's been injured in and out, and the Wilcom Formby thing from South Florida and all the above. So he's been in and out. Here's what I'll say about the offensive line, because, and this is why I want to do position groups, not individual, not team, not unit, whatever. Tyler Booker is one of the best college guards I've ever seen.
Wow.
Tyler Booker, it's not fair for me to say this because I haven't watched every single team or every single good lineman in college football. I would be shocked if he's not the best guard, interior lineman in college football. Like, I would be shocked. I've watched him, obviously. The things he does, the strengths he has in his hands, his ability to roll his hips. He plays guard much differently than any of the guards during the Saban tenure, including myself. In my opinion, the best lineman that Bama's ever had, or at least in the last 20 years. I don't want people to start talking about John Hanna and everybody else. Just the last 20 years has been Chance Warmack.
Wow.
Like, Warmack was a creative player at offensive guard. Now, Chance Warmack and Tyler Booker, they go about it 2 different ways. Tyler Booker is going to be more in pass pro. He's probably got quicker feet, which that's saying something because Chance had great feet, but Tyler's just that good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Tyler Booker is the best offensive lineman probably in the country. I don't know how else to say that. Interior offensive line for sure. Maybe just the best lineman, period, in the country. That's how good Tyler Booker is. Parker Brailsford, I'm not going to say he's at Tyler Booker's level, but he's playing at an All-American level. Like, he straight up is playing at an All-American level. Think of where we're at right now with center as opposed to how you felt at the end of last year, right? And I'm sure Seth McLaughlin's been great at Ohio State and, getting the snaps right and everything. That's fine. The problem is that Caden Proctor has All-American ability, but he has low-level consistency, right? And so I think, but when you look at that side of the offensive line, you go All-American center, possible, whatever trophy. The guards don't really have a trophy. That's all right, though. We don't mind. All right. Probably, the consensus All-American at left guard and All-American ability at left tackle. And you look at all those things, you go, well, just run the ball left. I mean, honestly, we had a very similar offensive line, in my opinion, in 2008. Yeah, I was playing between Antoine Caldwell and Andre Smith. It was beautiful. We ran it left all the time. Then you get to the right. The right guard to me is frustrating. And I know that he's been injured as well. I know he's been injured a lot. They've had to go to his backup, the Wisconsin transfer, a number of times. There's a lot of inconsistency there. And I think, in my opinion, the inconsistency at right guard is leading to inconsistency at right tackle. I think they're not able to pass off the games. They don't trust each other in some of the stunts. The calls are back and forth. What the offensive coordinator and coaches are expecting of them are kind of back and forth. And so as a unit, I think they're better than a C+. But I got to be honest, and I've gotten more and more concerned as we've gone on. They're not asked to do a lot. And that's good on the surface. But I also think that it means that these defenses can kind of tee off. We run very few run plays, Mick. I mean, I'm going to say 4 schemes, four run schemes maybe. You got inside zone. You got duo, which is similar. You got the counter GT or counter whatever you want to call it, and we run a little bit of power, man. And so there's not a lot there. You also, I don't know how this is possible, but it feels like we never move the pocket in pass protection. Never. Like, we just drop back and throw it. We don't ever move the pocket. There's no rollouts, rarely any rollouts on play actions and things like that. So I think the offensive line's better than C+. I still am probably going to go in the B- range, though, because I think they're better than they've played, even though a couple of them have played extremely well throughout the year. Jalen Milroe, to me, he's not cut out for what they want him to do. And I think he's actually played pretty well when you think about it like that. And so, he's probably in the B- range as well. Maybe he's in the C's for me. I don't understand what's going on with him. He's not running north and south until the second half this past weekend. He hadn't done it in a while.
Right.
Now, you and I, we got to keep the show in context, Mick, because we're doing this, and they just beat Missouri by 34.
Right.
We're kind of taking a totality look at this season in terms of what this team is right now. So I want to keep that in perspective, right? I'm not just talking about how they played against Missouri. The wide receivers, to me, are a mixed bag. I think Jeremy Bernard's probably the best of the group. I know Ryan Williams got the 20 targets. Jeremy Bernard's just consistent. They're good blockers. The running backs, to me, Mick, huge step forward this past week. I don't know if I've ever gotten so excited on a 2-yard game.
No, you loved it. Those guys finally waiting on them blocks.
Dude, when I saw there's early in the game, Jam Miller takes the ball. There's nothing there, right? There's a double team between Booker and Proctor. It's kind of stonewalled. Linebacker fills. They come off. Nothing there. He looks left, kind of looks right, and just kind of puts his nose in there and puts it down. And they get like a 2-3 yard gain. And that was growth to me. Right? I looked at it and I wasn't thinking, oh man, they only got 3 yards. I was like, dude, he was patient. He didn't bounce it. Like, he's trying to find the hole, and he's trying to sit behind this big offensive line on the left side. And he's trying to find it. Like, that was growth to me. And sure enough, you see him able to do it a couple of times in the second half where it's like, let me step in, let me be patient, let me cut, let me accelerate, let me break a tackle, let me hit my head on the goalpost. Justice Haynes, same way. Love what they're doing right now. I think they're a very underrated group of this team. So all that being said, when you put the whole offense together, I think I'm just underwhelmed schematically by both the offense and the defense right now. They're not asked, none of them are asked to do a lot. What they are trying to do offensively is pretty simple, right? There's not like a lot of craziness to it. You look at, like, we watched Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia. Like, there's a lot of complexity to what he's doing. It's the zone read, it's this, it's pistol, it's wing, it's all this other stuff. We don't do a lot of stuff. So that's concerning me coaching wise. Kalen DeBoer, I still think great coach. They have their scheme. I think what people don't want to talk about with Kalen, to me, Mick, and I want you to answer this question right here. I think people don't want to think about the fact that Kalen's still learning on the job.
Yeah.
And I think he is. I think Kalen's still learning on the job a little bit. I think that was to be expected when he took it, but I don't think people like that very much when you think of it that way.
No, I agree, man. I like him. And I guess, sometimes people mistake my concern with, not being supportive, I mean, I
negative
love
criticism.
and it's not that. I mean, I'm just looking at the rest of the season, and I want to know where the growth is. And you're right. I mean, he is learning on the job. I mean, this is the toughest job, one of the toughest jobs in football. I mean, it's hard being the king of the mountain, when everybody's trying to take a shot at you. I mean, has he ever been anywhere where when you lose every time on the road, they tear the goalpost down? And if that stops, then you know what? He's done a bad job, because that's kind of part of the course. I remember when it stopped, when Mike DuBose was coaching and we started losing games all the time, from the days of Gene Stallings, and now we're kind of in a situation where we're losing more. We're still not, we're not losing a lot, but we're losing more. And how do you fix that? My C isn't that I don't see a lot of good. My C plus is that this team could very easily be undefeated. And that if this team, did some of the little things right, and the lack of discipline was a whole letter grade for me, because I think that translated into a loss to Tennessee that you didn't necessarily have to have, because of the fact that you accepted that. And, and that's that. I'm glad Booker's kind of stepping up from what everyone's saying and being that leader, but DeBoer's learning on the job. Yeah. I'm afraid I don't want it to get to the point where it's so stressful that when he finally does get things turned around, he doesn't run a Dennis Franchione, and bolt for somewhere where he, it's like, hey, I can't take.
He's appreciated.
Well, yeah, and there's more to this job than just coaching football. This athletic department it will eat its own. Like if the head football coach is weak or considered to be weak, like when, maybe with Franchione or Shula, you got the gymnastics coach trying to do undermining things to you. Some of the other sports coaches are kind of nipping at you. Football's always king at Alabama because that's where the money is. And no matter how popular the other sports are, it's always at the top of the list. I do love Greg Burns' leadership, and maybe it's not like it was when I was working over there, which I called it the Viper Pit. And then when Saban came in, he was kind of the slayer of snakes, like he was just the guy that like separated them all with a shaft, and everybody just kind of went in line. If Bama doesn't succeed, who knows what's going to happen in that aspect. So my point is, he is learning on the job. I'm 100% behind him. I love the guy. I think his personality works better with this day and age of player. But it's hard, and I've said this on other shows, it's hard to go from being Mr. Nice Guy to having to really constrict on people that aren't doing their job. But you sometimes, as the boss, you have to do that. It's easier to come in hard and then, hey, you know what? This guy does a great job. I can trust him, and kind of let it loose a little bit, more. Yeah. So that's the tough part for him.
Let me tell you, since we're just giving out report cards and taking a broad overview, I was asked before the season what I thought Bama's season would be. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on kind of what your expectations were for Kalen DeBoer in year one. I said that postseason included, I would probably expect 3 losses. I think we're probably going to get there, in my opinion, if you ask me now. I didn't think the losses would look like – I thought maybe – I honestly, before the season, I told people we'd probably lose to Georgia and Tennessee. And that's just the honesty coming out of me. Now, we lost Tennessee, shouldn't have. You beat Georgia, and you lose to Vanderbilt. Now, it looks a little bit different. Here's my point about Kalen DeBoer learning on the job, and then I'll get to the defensive grades in just a minute. I think the biggest marquee, like the biggest thing you can look at if you're a Bama fan and you want to say, is Kalen DeBoer going to work at Alabama? Is Kalen DeBoer the guy? Can I invest in Kalen DeBoer? Let me tell you what you need to be looking for. You need to be looking for roster retention during the transfer portal periods over the next few months.
Good point.
Can he keep these players here? Is Ryan Williams going to stick around for the length of Ryan Williams' career? Right? These guys, the Parker Brailsford, right? You go all the way down the list of young talent in the secondary, at linebacker, the defensive line. Look at the talent they have. Look at how young it is. Now, I used to say, man, wait till next year. Wait till 2 years from now. Wait till these younger guys, wait till they get in the system, learn the system. Now you're not like that in college football. Now it's like, are these guys going to stick around? They got a ton of talent. Are they going to bounce out on us? I think roster retention this offseason, no matter how this season finishes for Kalen DeBoer, roster retention added into the elite recruiting you're doing right now is going to tell me everything I need to know about Kalen DeBoer. Because college football, to me, is going to become less about coaching, all right, and more about how long can I keep these guys in my system so that they become comfortable with it? What's the longevity of a lot of these players? And so I get questions all the time. Kalen DeBoer, this system, that system, X's and O's, and what. Like, that's not going to tell the future to me. The future to me is going to be how comfortable can they get this year, which I think they are. I think everybody's learning on the job. That includes Kalen DeBoer. How many years Kalen DeBoer been a head coach in Division I?
Yeah,
5?
Not many. Yeah, right.
And never in the SEC. So he's learning on the job too. He's learning about this brand of football. I think he's handling it decently well. And he'll learn from that. I think Kalen DeBoer has done a good job. I think I would probably give him a B, flat B at this point. Just because I don't think the Malachi Moore still in the back of my head, a couple of other things this year. I would have loved to see him come down a little bit harder on, but I think Kalen's been fine with a B. Now, as far as the defense goes, I think the defense and offense, Mick, are going 2 different directions, in my opinion. Like, I watched the Skycast version of the ESPN broadcast, which is awesome, by the way. You should try it out so that you don't have to listen to any commentator or anything. You just the Skycam. Yeah, you don't have to listen to anything. So I'm watching the defense. Our linebackers played their best game of the year. And I'm talking about before Drew Pine came in at quarterback. Our linebackers came in with a game plan. They wanted to stop the stretch zone or the wide zone or whatever you want to call it. And they came in with a plan to trigger quick. You look at the early, some of the early stops in the backfield tackles for loss. Even when Brady Cook was in, I mean, linebackers, boom, now, downhill, now. No looking around, no guessing, no wondering what else is going on. It is like, that's my guy, boom, I'm downhill. Thought it was awesome. Thought it might have been the best game the linebackers have played all season. I think the defensive line played well last week, so I'm not ready to say that about them. And then obviously the takeaways from the secondary. I thought this entire defense played with a physicality we haven't seen all season against Missouri. Now, caveat is I think there was blood in the water in the second half, right? And it's like Drew Pine comes in, he throws the pick like immediately to Malachi. And then it's like, dude, I don't even know. I don't even know who he's throwing to, right? And so I think there's a little bit of blood in the water, but the physicality from the defense against Missouri was at an all-time high. And I think that's because our linebackers in secondary are figuring things out. I don't think they're soft by nature. I just think, Mick, when you think too many times on a football field, you can't be physical, right? You're like, I don't know where I'm going. Oh, let me make a shoestring tackle. But when you are thinking and going now, you can launch on somebody, Reuben Foster style. You know what I mean? So, I have not liked at all what the defense has been so far this year. Like I said, a lot of thinking, but again, they're all learning on the job. So I'm probably in the C+ range with you on that one. Just in terms of defense, I think the defense line's been the best unit. I think they have the most upside when you look at their youth, their physicality. So I think they're probably in the A range for me. Linebackers have been B-, I guess I'd rate them at this point. And it's hard for me to look at the secondary and look past some of the blown coverages. I think they're in the B range as well. I'll say this, Malachi Moore, his leadership's never been on more display than it was this. I don't know how much you focus on Malachi, right? But when you look at him, every play, hyping up whoever made the tackle, punching him in the chest, getting rowdy, like his leadership was on full display on Saturday.
Yeah. And you know what, man, there's still a lot of season left. And it's good to hear that because, sometimes you make a mistake. He obviously did. And it was a big one to me just because of the message it sends to everyone else. But we know he's a good dude. Like it just, he just had one of those moments and it's in life when you have those situations, how you bounce back. So that's a good sign. And then everyone's falling in love with Bray Hubbard, man. I mean, this dude is like Coker says, he's just always in the right spot. And you sent me a thing today, like where it actually graded out where he's in the right spot.
Yeah. I guess it's Pro Football Focus that does that. Somebody was sending it to me and it's not, I thought when I first read it, the best DB or best safety, for Alabama or in the game or whatever. No, it was like in the SEC. It was best grade in the SEC. I was like, oh, dang. And look, I think that goes back to kind of, we're talking about learning on the job. We're talking about thinking. We're talking about diagnosing, right? That's what the defense seems to have struggled with. Seems to me like his understanding maybe at a higher level than some other guys right now. So that makes sense. I think what they've done is they've kind of met in the middle. To me, Kane Womack has kind of simplified some things, in terms of what Saban was asking, not really earlier in the year. And I think that's kind of met in the middle, right? Where you're kind of like, all right, well, I know a lot, and then it's simplified. Oh my goodness, I can play fast, right? So that's exciting to me, man. But Missouri, obviously, through the end of the game, one arm behind their back, and I know Eli Drinkwitz had a lot to say throughout that game to the defensive players about that, but that's not Bama's problem, man. That's somebody else's problem. So there was some good, some bad from Mizzou. You look at the first half as a different game, the second half. But look, when you look at a first half and Bama scores what, I think they had 3 points or maybe 6 points before the turnover.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about that in the negative because you don't feel like those guys played well, but the adjustments they made allowed them to play well in the second half. And I think that's something to look forward to.
He's like the Will Wade of college football, Drinkwitz.
Yeah.
LSU coach. He is just like, some of the stuff some of his antics, if you will, but he's a good coach. I mean, that I never thought Missouri would even be at the level that they're at now.
Right.
But they are, and that's obviously because him and his coaching staff are able to find talent and bring it in. And then go out there and coach it up. I mean, they killed Tennessee last year, which was kind of interesting watching him talk so much smack walking off the field.
I'm glad you said that, dude, because this is how this whole all thing happened with Eli Drinkwitz. I've never thought here or there about Eli Drinkwitz. You know, I just not somebody we talk about a bunch in terms of the SEC. You know, there's all these other coaching personalities. So I had to go during the second half. I had to go down the street to a neighborhood Halloween party thing with my kids, and I walk up and there's a guy wearing a Tennessee shirt, and he goes, "Man, I hope Alabama beats the crap out of Missouri." And I was like, I looked at him, I was like, "Why?" I don't even know the guy.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Man, I hate Eli Drinkwitz."
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, "Why?
Oh, yeah.
Why would anybody hate Eli Drinkwitz?"
Yeah.
And then he started talking about him talking, crap after the Tennessee game last year. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. Dude, sure enough, during the game, I'm looking at him mouthing off to everybody under the sun. And I'm like, who does this guy think he is?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing right here?
Yeah, right.
So it was pretty unbelievable, man, to be honest with you. I didn't necessarily expect that, I guess.
Mm. So to me, just kind of going back to the things that Alabama needs to improve final 4 games and why I gave them a C+ and not a B. And it comes down to third down efficiency in the month of October, which has been bad on both sides of the ball. You know, they've been one of the worst up until last game on stopping teams on third down. And I don't mean the worst in SEC. I mean the worst, terrible. And then they were 2 of 9 in third down against Missouri. And that's a concern to me. That is a big concern because good teams are good on third down. And they were great third down at the beginning of the season. So part of it is the penalties. They've got to stop the penalties because every time it feels like they're getting a drive going, somebody's off, somebody's jumping, somebody's doing something somebody's holding, something's happening and they're going backwards. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that plays into, they're not a very good third and long team right now. On defense, they did a better job of it this week, but they were also up against a backup quarterback. But at the same time, you win and lose games with penalties and third downs. Now, the thing I will say, which is why they didn't get a C or a C-, is that the takeovers now, they have been fantastic. And that's the thing that's kind of kept them in these games as bad as they've been on third down and, of course, fourth down when they played against Georgia.
Yeah. No, it's definitely been frustrating, man. And to me, it's weird because a lot of times takeaways kind of come in the form of physicality, right? You're hitting the quarterback and he's fumbling the ball or he's throwing up a desperate interception or, you get a tipped ball across the middle because you're hitting a wide receiver on contact. I just haven't seen that. Right. And so I think that's the beautiful part of what you kind of saw happen against Missouri. And I think a lot of it had to do with Drew Pine. I don't think he's cut out to run what they're trying to do. Mentally, that is. I don't think he's diagnosing what they're trying to tell him. But I also think the offensive line for Missouri played awfully. All right. And so that was going to happen either way. Brady Cook, they would have needed the greatest version of Brady Cook if they were going to make that game closer, in my opinion. I think Drew Pine just was the nail in the coffin, and it is what it is. So I'm with you, man. Like there's something that I watched on this film, and like I said, man, you go through a quarter and a half of Bama on offense in this game. It's horrific. Like you're watching it going, how are they so bad? And then they turn it on. There's a couple of posts, a couple of downfield passing plays that Milroe is able to hit. Jeremy Bernard's a good dude. I'm a bigger fan of him than I am Ryan Williams right now. He's good. He blocks. He does all the things. But yeah, you feel like you got it going. Couple cutback runs on some counter plays, some duo plays, some inside zone, and then you're off to the races. And so I think that was nice to watch. Again, I'm going to go back and I was watching Missouri, and I don't think I realized how simple we really are offensively, to the extent that we are until I watched that game, and I'm like, I think back on what we were in 2009. We ran the ball a lot. And it's like, what were we? And the simple fact is we didn't have an identity of style of running because we ran everything. We ran wide zone, we ran inside zone, we ran power, we ran counter, we ran what we called orbit plays where you pull the guard outside and, kick out on a corner. We ran everything, right? And this team is it's not built like this. Very simple up front, which is good when you're learning, right? And I think they're playing the same style on defense. I think they're learning basics of this. And if that retention rate stays good in the offseason, maybe you kick it into gear and add some things, right? But I think that's still something to just keep in the back of your head.
2 big games remaining. I mean, you want to win all 4, but LSU and then that Auburn game at the end of the season. And it scares me that I'm worried about this Alabama team being able to win both of those games, those games, just because, it's kind of a coin flip in these close ones right now.
Well, LSU's a problem. Garrett Nussmeier, watched a little bit of his tape. Garrett Nussmeier is an NFL caliber quarterback. I think he trusts his, I don't want to say trust his receivers too much, but he's willing to put balls in harm's way too much. He's a gunslinger, right? Anybody that follows NFL football, Sam Howell last year was like leading the NFL at one point for the Washington Commanders. Slinging the pigskin like Uncle Rico. This thing is just coming out. No matter what, the ball's going to come out. He's getting sacked like 6 times a game, right? He's thrown for 400 yards and like 4 picks. That was the stat line. You know what I mean? Like, dude, he's gonna light it up, but ball's gonna be going back. That's how I feel about Garrett Nussmeier right now. And I said this before they played A&M. I'm like, Garrett Nussmeier is a very good quarterback. Accuracy's great, stature, pocket presence, but man, he is willing to put it out there. He's willing to say, hey, go get this thing. And it didn't happen for him a couple times during that game. It goes back the other direction. So I'm with you. Like, I think that if you can't rise to the occasion against LSU, that there's a chance that they put it on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also think that Garrett Nussmeier throwing into, some of the players we have on the back end, I think there's a chance for turnovers in that aspect. I'm just curious to see what our run game looks like against LSU. I don't want Jalen Milroe to have to throw the ball 50 times. And I want him to be part of the running game, north and south, not to the sideline, not pulling up, we're running out of bounds after a 6-yard gain, whatever it is. I want him to run north and south. Keep the ball on the counters, get in the B gaps, look for the kick out block, that kind of thing. So if you can play that brand, you can run the ball. I think that Garrett Nussmeier give you some turnovers. I think that's going to be kind of the concept I'm looking at over the next, 12 days or 11 days as we build up to that game.
All right. So just answer the question. Is Alabama improving?
I think they are. I think there's no doubt about it in my mind. I think that I think this team is sporadic at times. I think the offensive line more than anything. I think it's sporadic. Well, there's 5 of them, right? So you're going to have, we used to call it the piano keys, right? You play the piano. You're going to have one of those keys will go down every now and then, right? So I think that they're improving. I think Jalen Milroe is improving. It's hard to say because he's not improving from where he was in Wisconsin and Georgia, the first half of Georgia. But he's improving off where he was the last couple of weeks. I think this coaching staff is getting to know this team a little bit better. They've made some changes defensively that just allow them to play faster. The 2-gap defensive tackles in a 4-down set where they're not in a 3, they're not in a 1, they're in head-up 2, so they're not getting double-teamed. They're improving. There's no doubt about it in my mind. They are an improving team, specifically on defense. Like I said, on offense, you're kind of just playing back up to where you were because you started off the season hot. Teams made adjustments. Now you're making adjustments, but it's definitely a team on the rise, in my opinion. And I think that's the best thing you can say about a team right now at this point that's 6-2 is like, you're getting better. You're under a first-year head coach. You're learning the scheme. You're playing faster. You're playing more physical. Tyler Booker is all world. You can lean your hat on him being a leader and everything else. And it's crazy, Mick, because I agree with you. I'm like, I don't know if we can beat LSU and some of the other teams. But I also think we can beat any team in the country at the same time. Isn't that weird? Like, you're like, we can beat anybody out there. Yeah. Like, Oregon's number 1. What?
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to have another crack at Texas, after all that. So it's a weird thought. You're like, dude, we could lose the rest of the way, or feels like we could beat anybody in the country. So it's a team that's improving. It's slow. It's steady. The offensive line is frustrating at times. They get their face involved too many times. They are beat on the edge way too many times. But again, learn your players, move the pocket, do some play action, use Milroe in the run game, keep being consistent, Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, and let's go to work, man. Like, I feel good about where this team's at. Get your legs back up under you. Diagnose yourself, which self-scouting is big in the bye week, and maybe you see a little bit of pivot away from what we saw in those bad weeks.
Needed this, man. It's like a therapy session.
Yeah, you like that, man? I'm trying to bring the vibe.
I needed that. Like, I was that 34-0 to me just felt like, you do like your own self-evaluation, and you're like, you ignore the score, but you just kind of look at the 2 for 9 on 3rd down and the missed blocks. It felt like poor Milroe's back there getting smoked. He was making bad decisions. Came out in the second half. I thought he played really well. And then, I didn't think Missouri was that good. I never have. But then when you kind of take a step back and listen to you, it's like, you know what, maybe 2 weeks off, Roberts gets a little healthier, maybe, the guys like the Vandermarks and the Formbies get a little bit better and you can use them more. Maybe Pritchett gets a little bit better. I don't know. At least you have Booker in there. The guy's going to make a lot of money in the NFL. He's been so good this year. But I think it all comes down to that. If those guys can have an A+ for the final 4 games, Bama will go 4-0 and we'll make the college football playoff. We lose to LSU. It's going to be it's going to be a weird last 3 games.
Yeah, it is, where you're like, you're wondering what the near future holds. And like I said, even if something goes downhill, I fully believe in Kalen DeBoer. I just want to get that. And I'm telling you, retaining players this offseason will be the marquee of what Kalen DeBoer is at Alabama. Like that will be the mark. That's what you will notice. When Mike Shula was there, I think my signing class was the 17th signing class, 17th rank. You know what I mean? Like you're not recruiting at a high level. You're not playing at a high level. Play other teams. That's when bad losses happen. But I'm here for it, man. I think this team, specifically on defense and specifically at linebacker, we are playing better than we have played all year right now, in my opinion. And so that's what I want to hang my hat on. I think that's very important when you look at how vertical and what LSU is going to try to do to you and throw some screens and some different stuff. So I'm excited, man. I think that leaps and bounds forward defensively, obviously, even though, look, if you want to be a naysayer, you're going to say, well, Drew Pine wasn't very good. I get it. He's not. But I'm not sure that it would have mattered as much as people are kind of making it out to be in the long run. I'm still not sure that Brady Cook would have been able to do anything because of what our defensive line and front seven did to their offensive line. So I don't know, man. We're getting there, and hopefully get some things shored up offensively, get more consistency in the pass pro. But run games, it wasn't maybe as fruitful in the beginning this past weekend, but I see steps in the right direction as far as the patience goes. So that's good to look at as well, man. Guys are running hard.
All right. Well, there you go. Another great job, Mike. Anything else you want to add to this episode of the All-American Report? Other than we're brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code next round to double your initial deposit. All that positivity might lead you to conclude that Bama's going to make the college football playoff. That might be one of the things that you feel comfortable with at mybookie.ag. But check them out right now. The promo code is next round, and with that promo code, they'll double your initial deposit. The other thing is that we're proudly part of Cover Crimson and covercrimson.com, part of Disrupt the Media. Right now, we are in the process of revamping the covercrimson.com page, which is exciting. And we want you guys to be a part of that. So if you do the annual subscription, you get the Cover Crimson t-shirt for free for doing it right now. And you also get the badge in the message board, the OG badge, the original, like the one that once this thing's up and going, you're not going to be able to get anymore. So you need to get on board now to get that. Final thought.
The people whose questions we'll be answering in the message board, right? The people were like, oh, that's an OG. Yeah. I do have one thing to add. I was curious your thought on this. I don't know if you saw the Lane Kiffin comment about the fact that Ole Miss doesn't ever get the night games, but they're going to get Georgia at the 3:30 slot, Bama and LSU in the night game. I know you've been in nighttime in Death Valley, man. What do you think about Bama getting that night slot against LSU?
Well, I don't always agree with Lane Kiffin. My thoughts on him about the way that he left Alabama, where he cost us the championship with, honestly, he's a great offensive mind, but maybe at that point in his life wasn't the most responsible guy. Hopefully that's changed now. It seems like it might have, but I don't know. With that said, sometimes he's kind of, I got a sister like that, where she's kind of says stuff sometimes and you're like, oof, maybe you shouldn't have said that, but we're all kind of like, I'm glad you did say that. And that's exactly how I felt. Like he's right. When you combine the bad officiating that seems to rear its ugly head now in every game, and then the fact that the TV networks get to pick the game times, and the game times do benefit the outcome of the games, right? Because you can make it tougher based on what time the game is. I would be upset too. And
yeah, I agree.
LSU gets a built-in advantage by having the game time at night. Not to say that Alabama hasn't or won't go in there and win at night. I mean, it's a lot of it's a mental thing. But I agree with him. Why not put the Ole Miss Georgia game at night? Why not get you already had LSU at night? Oh, because you can go and say, hey, it's Baton Rouge at night. You're going to benefit those guys. He's exactly right with his comment in my mind.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a football aspect to that where Bama hasn't played well on the road, right? There's been communication issues. There's been false starts. There's been a number of different things that have happened to them on the road that have not happened at home. So I think it's a perfect time for a bye week, man. Get those things shored up before you go down there and play in Baton Rouge and get all the small little kinks worked out that you have worked out once you've been together for a couple of years. And hopefully we can hit the ground running down there in Baton Rouge. Fun place to play, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It is a fun place to play. We'll be previewing it for the next 2 weeks. So hang with us here on Cover Crimson and covercrimson.com. Get in the message. Get in there and comment. Don't threaten that you're never going to come back on because you disagree with me. Get in there and tell me why, man. I mean,
don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
Look, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings with my opinions. When I was at Alabama, I used to be in these political science classes, Dr. Alzakoff's political science classes, and people would duke it out for 45 minutes or an hour and 15, depending on what time or day the class was. And the one thing that you learned is don't get your feelings hurt. Just get in there and articulate your point. And we all became great friends. We still are. And that's because you're entitled to your own opinion. Doesn't make you a bad person. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the bell. I know that that's something that's very complicated for Auburn fans, but you Bama people know how to do more than one thing at the same time. You can walk and chew gum. Roll Tide, everybody.